Do you ever feel lost on the fretboard? Like you've learned to play a lot of stuff on the guitar over the years, but somehow the neck still seems like a mystery, especially the part above the 5th fret? Does your confidence drop as soon as you're asked to play in a weird key? You know the notes and shapes are there, but you just can't seem to connect them? Well, here's the crazy part. There are just 2 notes that can unlock the entire fretboard for you. For chords, for solos, for any key. That's not an exaggeration. And once you understand this, you'll wonder how you ever played without it. And the best part, fixing this is way easier than you think. My teaching is influenced by something called the 80-20 principle. It basically says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. In other words, a small handful of things makes the biggest difference in your playing. And if you focus on those things, the right things, you make progress way faster. Over the years, I've narrowed down what those high leverage skills are for guitarists. And one of the biggest, without question, is knowing the notes on the E and A strings and how to use those notes to map out the neck. It's such a simple concept, but it has a massive ripple effect on your playing. So I've worked with guitarists of all levels, including many who have been gigging for decades. And this is the #1 blind spot that I see. They know songs, they can solo, they are definitely not beginners. But if I ask them to find a G sharp high up on the A string, or play an F minor chord past the 5th fret, crickets. And hey, there's zero shame in that. I was in that same boat for years. But if you can't confidently find your way around the E string and A string, you are making guitar playing 10 times harder than it needs to be. That hesitation is what holds so many players back. And it's not their fault. Most guitar instruction is bloated with information that you don't actually need. But this is one of those essential 20% skills that unlocks everything else. So here's what I'm going to show you in this video. A few simple hacks to memorize the notes on the E string and the A string fast. How to use those 2 notes to map out any key, major or minor. And why this tiny, simple shift in thinking will help you feel more in control every time you pick up the guitar. So if you've been playing guitar for a while and you still feel stuck or unsure on the fretboard, then this is going to change things for you. Stick with me, let's jump in. And if you want a printable cheat sheet with the E string and A string notes, plus a link to my note memorization video practice tool, click the link in the description. Hacks for memorizing the note names. Learning the notes on the E and A strings is simple once you see the pattern. But first, a quick review. Musical notes are named A through G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then the sequence repeats. These are called the natural notes, and they correspond to the white keys on a piano. Between most natural notes is a sharp or flat, represented by the black keys. For example, the note between A and B can be called A sharp because it's a little higher than A, or B flat because it's a little lower than B. Same pitch, different names, depending on the key. There are 2 exceptions. There is no sharp or flat between B and C, or between E and F. So the musical alphabet will go straight from B to C and straight from E to F. So let's apply this to the low E string. The open string is E, and then we will go straight to F because there is no sharp or flat between E and F. And then the next note will be F sharp, G, which you may recognize as the root of a G chord, G sharp, A, which is the same pitch as the open A string, A sharp, B, and then it's going to go straight from B to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, and then I'm back to E at the 12th fret, which is the double dot. And at that point, the neck starts over. So for example, the 3rd fret, the first dot, we said was G. So the 3rd fret past the 12th fret is also G. So this is the 15th fret, but I just think of it as the 3rd fret starting over, 1 octave higher. I personally think of all of the frets past the 12th fret as just a mirror of the lower part of the neck, just 1 octave up. Now the A string works the same way. I have A sharp, B, and then it goes straight from B to C, and and that's the root note of a C chord. C, C sharp, D, and that's the same as the open D string. D sharp, E, and then it's going to go straight from E to F. F sharp, G, G sharp, and then I arrive back at A at the 12th fret. The two hacks. So hack number one is to use the dots. Using the fret markers or the dots on the neck can really help you lock in where the natural notes are. So on the E string, I had E and F, and then the next three dots are also natural notes. G, A, B. And then because there's no sharp or flat between B and C, the next two natural notes are off the dots. C, D, and then I'm back to E at the 12th fret or double dot. The pattern on the A string is almost exactly the same. I start with the note A, and then I go to the 2nd fret for the next natural note, B. And then the next three dots are natural notes, C, D, E, and then because there is no sharp or flat between E and F, the next two natural notes are off the dots. So F is at the 8th fret, G here at the 10th fret, and then I'm back to A at the 12th fret. So you can think of it like this: E, F, and then on the dots, G, A, B, and then off the dots, C, D, and then the double dot, E. And then the A string is almost the same pattern. A, B, and then on the dots, C, D, E, and then I get off the dots, F, G, and then the double dot, 12th fret, I'm back to A. So notice the 7th fret of the E string was B, and it goes straight to C because that's one of the two spots where there is no sharp or flat. So B to C. And the 7th fret of the A string is the note E. And again, there's no sharp or flat between E and F. So it's going to go straight from E to F. Hack number 2, use the 12th fret as a home base. So the 12th fret is where everything restarts. The open E string is also E at the 12th fret, 1 octave higher. The open A string is also the note A 1 octave higher at the 12th fret. So if I were looking for the note D on the E string, instead of counting up from E, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, it might be easier to count down. I could start at this 12th fret E, E, D sharp, D. So now let's map out the neck using these two notes. So for example 1, let's say that we're in the key of D major. Let's find the note D on the E string and A string. On the E string, I can either count back from the note E at the 12th fret, E, D sharp, D, or I can count up from the open E, E, F, on the dots, G, A, B, off the dots, C, D, here at the 10th fret. On the A string, A, B, and then I'm on the dots for C, D. So D is at the 5th fret. So now let's map out the neck with those two notes. So I go to D on the E string, put my pinky on it, since it's in a major key, and I play shape number 1 of the pentatonic scale. Then I move back 2 frets, and I get the diagonal extensions of shape number 1. Then I go to D on the A string here at the 5th fret, put my pinky on it. That gives me shape number 4, the other landmark shape of the pentatonic scale. Then I can diagonally extend that shape by moving back 2 frets. Now this involves open strings, so I'm just going to finger this the same as if this were a fret. So if this were a fret, I would put my index finger here and my ring finger here. So I'm going to play this note with my ring finger, even though I obviously don't need to hold this note with my index finger. So I get open to, open to, open to, slide. And then I can take that same D on the A string here at the 5th fret, move it up 12 frets. So I'm at the 2nd dot, so I'm going to go to the 2nd dot past the 12th fret, and that would give me a repeat of shape number 4. I can move back 2 frets and do the diagonal extensions of shape number 4. I can also find all of the caged shapes from just these 2 notes. So if I play the note on the E string here at the 10th fret, that's where the E shape is. I look at my pinky, and that is where the imaginary capo would go for this D shape, 2 frets higher. And then this note also is the lower note of the G shape, and I play the practical G shape, which looks like this. But that came from this kind of awkward full G shape. So I found all 3 of those shapes just by finding this D here at the 10th fret. So then if I go to this D at the 5th fret on the A string, that gives me the A shape. And that A shape is connected to the G shape through these 3 notes. And then below this D here on the A string, I get what I call the practical C shape. The full C shape would look like this. It's quite awkward. So I play this little practical fragment here. And that little practical fragment of the C shape connects to the D shape. So it's all connected, and I'm mapping the entire thing out in my mind based on these 2 notes. C shape, D shape, C shape. Root note, A shape connected to the G shape, which is connected to this root note here, the 10th fret. There's my E shape, or my practical E shape. And then I'm back to the D shape, which would connect me back to the C shape, and so on until I run out of the neck of the guitar. So just 2 notes let me map out the entire pentatonic scale all over the neck of the guitar and instantly show me where all 5 caged shapes were. Example 2. So for our next example, let's look at the key of G minor. You may even want to pause the video here and see if you can find G on the E string and the A string. G on the E string would be E, F, and G here at the 3rd fret. To find G on the A string, I can either count down from this A here, A, G sharp, G, or I can count up, A, B, and then on the dots, C, D, E, and then off the dots, F, G at the 10th fret. So now let's map out G minor using these 2 notes. So I go to G on the E string at the 3rd fret, and I get shape number 1 of the pentatonic scale. I can move back 2 frets and get the diagonal extensions of shape number 1. Then I could find G on the A string, that was here at the 10th fret, and I get shape number 4. Move back 2 frets, and I get the diagonal extensions for shape number 4. And then I can repeat things an octave higher. So I get this G here at the 3rd fret, the first dot. I go to the first dot past the 12th fret, which would be the 15th fret, and I get shape number 1 again. Then I can move back 2 frets and diagonally extend shape number 1. Okay, I can also find all of the minor caged shapes with just those 2 notes, the G on the E string and G on the A string. So if I go to G on the E string, that gives me the E minor shape of G. Then my pinky, once again, that's the imaginary capo for where the D minor shape would be. So if I were playing the D minor shape, my capo would be here at the 5th fret, but I map that out from this note here on the 3rd fret. So here's my E minor shape. This D minor shape connects to the C minor shape, which is a shape that's not used that much, but it's a really great shape. You should try and put that into your vocabulary. Then if I go to the note G on the A string, I get the A minor shape of G minor. So you can see how this looks just like an A minor chord moved up. That's the G minor shape of A minor, and this also connects back to the C minor shape. So again, with just these 2 notes, that's part of the G minor shape, which is a little bit awkward. The G minor shape in total would be, but you can see how it's almost an impossible shape to play. But this little fragment of it is really nice. That little fragment also is within this E minor shape. So I kind of think of the G minor shape as being kind of a theoretical shape more than a practical shape. So again, for G minor, I get the E minor shape. My pinky's here, so here's the D minor shape, which connects right to the C minor shape, which has the root note here on the A string as well. There's the A minor shape, which connects to the G minor shape, and I'm back to the E minor shape. Pentatonically, shape number 1 and its diagonal extensions. Here's G on the A string, so shape number 4 and its diagonal extensions. Shape number 1 repeating. Two notes can unlock the entire neck of the guitar for you. Hopefully now it's obvious to you why it's so important to learn the names of the notes on the E string and A string. Use the dots, use the 12th fret. If you use these hacks and practice with backing tracks in many different keys, you will memorize this in no time. This will allow you to move around the neck with so much confidence. You'll never get lost again. And again, if you want a printable cheat sheet of the names of the notes on the E string and A string, plus a link to my note memorization video practice tool, click the link in the description. And if you want to take your playing even deeper, click on this video where I show how pro guitarists use this method to play all over the neck. It's all connected. Click here to keep going, and I'll see you next week.